Chapter 703. Gu Mingming sighed and said, "Because we did not trust each other enough, how many failures have we gone through? I have already learned my lesson, so no matter what my eyes see, my heart will choose to trust you and Elvis unconditionally." Leah hugged Gu Mingming and rubbed his face against her neck. Gentleness and contentment shone in the deepest part of his eyes. He kissed the side of her face and said, "Thank you, I love you." Gu Mingming leaned into Lee's arms and chuckled, "Don't think that I will let you off just because you said a few nice words. Why did you drug my dinner?" Lee's body stiffened like a child who had done something wrong. He muttered softly, "You are afraid of blood." Sigh. It was that perverted coming-of-age ceremony again. Ever since that coming-of-age ceremony scared her to tears, no matter how she tried to explain, Elvis and Leah were sure that she was afraid of blood. But the heavens knew that there was a 1,000-year lonely soul in her body, and it just so happened that this soul was the coldest and most bloodthirsty soul in the world. In her memory, there were so many bloody scenes that she had become numb to them and could not even feel a trace of it. "How did you know that Cole would definitely come today?" Gu Mingming could not be bothered to explain that she was not afraid of blood, because the two of them would not believe her no matter how hard she tried. Leah narrowed his eyes slyly and said, "Because he is greedy." Gu Mingming did not understand. Leah gently stroked Gu Mingming's hair and whispered into her ear, "He thought that you would definitely choose to abandon me in the face of such a great disparity between the two choices. But you didn't. Not only did you not abandon me, you even accompanied me to play around without any qualms. Your love and concern for me ignited the jealousy in Cole's bones. So, he would definitely appear to either snatch it or crush it." Gu Mingming tilted her head and asked, "So this was your original plan? You knew that I would definitely not abandon you and would definitely make a choice that would make Cole jealous?" A tinge of hesitation and fear flashed across Lee's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by luck. He chuckled and said, I believe that my Mingming will make me happy." Gu Mingming knew that no matter if it was Leah or Elvis or any other male in the beast world, they would always be worried about their own gains and losses in love. They were in a state where they could be abandoned at any time, so it was very difficult for them to have confidence. But even so, Elvis and Leah were trying hard to believe her. But, if the matter of the 5 treasures were to be revealed, would the confidence that they had accumulated with great difficulty still exist? Gu Mingming frowned, feeling a little worried. After all, Elvis was on the verge of going crazy just by getting close to the lake. Leah was hugging Gu Mingming from behind, so he did not see the slight frown on her face. But Elvis, who was facing her, could clearly see the melancholy and worry in her eyes. He slowly sat beside Leah and did not separate her from his arms. Instead, he held her little hand gently. His gaze was deep and gentle, but he did not say a single word. Leah looked at Elvis, then at Gu Mingming, who was in his arms. He searched his heart but could not find the jealousy that could make him go crazy. Smiling, Leah kissed Gu Mingming's left ear and said softly, "I feel that the way we are now is just perfect. If you are happy, I will be happy too." Aside from the topic, recommending an article by old friend Liu Xiaomei, King of Pluto's Tyrannical Love, a ghost knocks at the door in the middle of the night. It will be the second PK on the 1st of March. Everyone please support and bookmark it. Xuanhuan had never thought that she would transmigrate into such a melodramatic era where evil spirits ran rampant. She was also married to Minghan. Luckily, she still had someone to rely on, so she would not have to go back to stealing. Lu Wooly, wife, what treasures do you want? Your husband will get them for you. Don't go out tonight. Xiaomu, pervert. Get lost. I got some chicken blood and dog blood today, let's see if you like it. Lu Wooly, I like wife. Xiaomu's face flushed red. This annoying pervert. Lu Wooly admitted his mistake with a sincere attitude. Xiaomu, your husband has his own difficulties. Your husband did not want you to suffer any harm, so I did not tell you the truth. Xuanhuan packed her luggage. Humph. Excuses. I want to marry mine Kuei. You still dare to marry someone else. Is it because I can't serve you? Chapter 704. Gu Mingming composed herself. She did not want Elvis and Leah to worry, so she tried her best to hide the melancholy in her eyes. She asked, "There is one more thing that I am very concerned about. Cole kept talking about replacing you. What does that mean? Does he think that I will like him if he kills you?" Leah shook his head. "He wants to use the fox seductive fragrance to bewitch you and transfer your feelings for me to him. Which means, he wants to steal our memories and make you believe that you have always loved him." Fox seductive fragrance? Gu Mingming was taken aback. Didn't you say that you had already plucked off his tail in solder so that he could no longer emit the fox seductive fragrance? Leah pinched Gu Mingming's chin. Silly girl, the fox seductive fragrance is the fox seductive fragrance, but it might not be Cole's. Moreover, even if he still has his tail, the fox seductive fragrance he secretes can't steal memories. Gu Mingming was confused by Li's words. She had always thought that the fox seductive fragrance was similar to some kind of special drug in the modern world. It was only used to spice up fish meat. How could it have such an evil effect? Leah said, the fox seductive fragrance of males exists to please females. And the fox seductive fragrance that can please females is the truly powerful thing. Gu Mingming glanced sideways at Leah. So there are females in solder who are in cahoots with Cole? Leah nodded in agreement. Gu Mingming closed her eyes. She started to filter through all the females in solder in her memory. However, she could not think of any of them that was particularly suspicious. She looked at Leah and asked, who could it be? Leah stretched out 3 fingers. There are only 3 females in the snow fox tribe who can secrete such a high-level fox seductive fragrance. Retracting the first finger, Leah said, Cole's ex-partner Jillian. Then he retracted his second finger and said, my brother's missing partner Laisha, whose fate is unknown. Leah looked at his last finger. It was difficult for him to speak. Gu Mingming tilted her head to look at his eyes. However, she could not understand the forbearance in his eyes. She did not want to see him wallow alone. She could only use the hand that was not held by Elvis to hold his wrist. What's wrong? Leah snapped back to reality. He took a deep breath and forced a nonchalant smile. Nothing. The other one is my father's concubine, Miranda. Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment. Mingming was stunned. She instantly understood that Li's forbearance stemmed from the humiliation. Leah tightened his arms around Gu Mingming, his eyes filled with unease and pleading. He said in a hoarse voice, I didn't. I really didn't. Gu Mingming hugged Leah back and smiled warmly. She patted his back lightly and said, how can the wisest person in the beast world, Sir Leah, have times when he is muddle-headed? Gui. Long, beast, and you bear, master. Your mating mark is on my ear. Isn't that the best proof of your innocence? I did not suspect you then. I won't suspect you now. Leah was taken aback. Suddenly he laughed. He caressed Gu Mingming's left ear. His smile was filled with the joy of surviving a disaster. That's right. My mating mark is on your ear. Every day I tell you the sweetest words of love. Chapter 705. Gu Mingming twisted her fingers and thought for a while before saying, I think Jillian is more likely. After all, she disappeared immediately after Cole was exiled. After all, they were once married, it's normal for her to help Cole. Leah chuckled and said, Cole kept her imprisoned in the secret room and she even forgot how to morph into a human form. Why would she care about their relationship as husband and wife? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, there is a psychological illness in this world called Stockholm Syndrome. It means that in a situation where the victim is isolated and helpless, the victim will develop feelings for the perpetrator and even help the perpetrator in return. This feeling will cause the victim to develop a good impression of the perpetrator, develop a sense of reliance on the perpetrator and even help the perpetrator. Leah and Elvis fell into deep thought, as if they couldn't quite understand Gu Mingming's words. Gu Mingming said, to put it simply, Cole imprisoned Jillian for a long period of time. His appearance represents food and water. Even if he speaks badly, it is the only form of communication for Jillian. He is the only thing she looks forward to in the long darkness. Be it pain or torture, he is the only sense of existence. As time passes, Jillian's reliance on Cole will become more severe, more desperate and desperate. In fact, in this twisted desire, there was even a strange kind of love. This is the conclusion of an expert on Stockholm Syndrome. Humans can be tamed. Elvis and Leah tightened their grip and Gu Mingming could even feel their palms sweating. What's wrong? Gu Mingming didn't understand. Leah said, I regret it, it's too scary. Gu Mingming asked, what? Leah said, if there's a flaw in my plan and Cole brings you away and imprisons you like he did to Jillian. Gu Mingming chuckled and asked back, are you afraid that I will develop Stockholm Syndrome? Leah felt uncomfortable at the thought of Gu Mingming falling in love with Cole with such a twisted mindset. Gu Mingming smiled and said, first, he has to be able to imprison me. Elvis and Leah were stunned. They forgot that Gu Mingming had the powers of a beast king now. How could Cole alone imprison her? He understood the logic, but he still couldn't help but worry. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief and patted Leah and Elvis, saying, Since we know that Cole has someone who can provide him with a high-purity fox seductive fragrance, we just have to be more cautious. The most important thing now is to find all the things that Cole wants and exchange the antidote for Hada. Elvis looked at Leah and asked, "Do you think Cole will hand over the antidote as promised after we have gathered everything?" Leah thought about it but shook his head. Xianxia is the only card he has that can restrain Ming Ming. I don't believe he will hand it over. He will. Gu Mingming murmured and took a deep breath. Raising her head again, Gu Mingming had a solemn and calm expression on her face. She said slowly, "Because the 5 items he wants are part of the keys to open the doors of time and space." Opening the gate of time and space. These 6 words made Elvis and Lee's hearts ache. The overwhelming fear engulfed the uneasiness, corroding every cell in the body and every thought in the brain. She would leave, returning to the original world. As for them, there was nothing he could do. Chapter 706. Gu Mingming's eyes dimmed for a moment. She had always known that Elvis did not like children. Even though he was very happy when she was pregnant, but her painful look during childbirth was like a thorn in his heart that could not be removed no matter what. Sighing, Gu Mingming held Elvis's hand and said, "To open the doors of time and space, other than the 5 things that Cole wanted, I also need the tear of the beast deity and the key of the beast king. The only tear of the beast deity in this world is already in my body. As for the key of the beast king, not to mention that it does not exist in this world even if it does. I will not use my child to open that stupid door." The tear of the beast deity was Snake's snake gallbladder. The beast king was the most favored child of the beast deity. Orcs who could reach this level could be said to be invincible in this world, so their deaths could only be voluntary. Just because of love, he had to cut open his chest and take out his gallbladder. Even the beast deity would shed a tear for it. The tear of the beast deity was famous. And in this world there was only one beast king, Snake. His snake gallbladder was already in Gu Mingming's body. As for the key of the beast king, it must be a child with the blood of the beast king. This child could only be Gu Mingming's next child. So, as long as Gu Mingming was not pregnant from now on, the doors of time and space would never be opened. With this understanding, Elvis and Leah were slightly more at ease. But with Cole's sly and sinister character, who knew if he would think of other unorthodox ways? What if he used the fox seductive fragrance to bewitch Gu Mingming again? What if he used other methods to force Gu Mingming to give birth to a child for him? Cole still had to be eliminated. Some things were not suitable for females to know. No matter how strong she was still their weakness. They could only protect her, coax her and treat her well. Sometimes, Gu Mingming also did not wish to have Snake's eyes that could see through the vicissitudes of life in her heart. That gaze was too sharp, to the extent that some emotions that Elvis and Leah had tried so hard to hide were clearly exposed in her eyes. She started to understand the clarity in Snake's eyes that she couldn't understand back then. That was an insight that had been accumulated over 1,000 years. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. She held Leah with one hand and Elvis with the other. "No matter how many sons I have, I will never give up on Xianxia. So, we better think of a way to find what Cole wants." Elvis frowned and asked, "What if he really goes back on his words?" Gu Mingming chuckled. "Don't I still have the beast deity as my father? If he dares to lie to me, I'll go back and complain to my father. I'll make him die without a complete corpse." Gu Mingming did not tell Leah and Elvis that other than opening the doors of time and space, these 7 treasures could also be exchanged for a drop of tear of the beast deity. If Cole could obtain any one of the 5 items, he could become the next beast king. How powerful would he be after obtaining all 5 items? Even Gu Mingming did not dare to think about it. In order to save her son, she personally groomed a demon king in the beast world. Was this considered as letting down the kindness that the beast deity mentioned? Or giving up on her own son for the well-being of the world? Sorry, even without the influence of Snake's bloodline, Gu Mingming would not be this kind. Chapter 707. "Oh right, how are Burke and the kids?" Gu Mingming asked. Elvis replied, "Burke's injuries are not light, but he won't die. The 4 little ones were only knocked out by Lee's medicine and would recover after a few days of being unconscious. I asked Colin to bring them back to St. Nazaire to take care of them. You don't have to worry." Gu Mingming nodded and heaved a sigh of relief. After resting for 4 days, Lee's injuries were more or less healed. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and said with some melancholy, "Did you guys get injured often in the past? Why do I feel that after you guys got together with me, you never had a good time?" Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and said, "What silly words are you saying? It's normal for males to get injured." Leah also smiled and said, "That's right, if I'm not injured, how can you feel sorry for me?" Gu Mingming knew that they were comforting her again. Sandy had told her many times about Elvis and Lee's legendary deeds. Most of the time, it was about how the two of them cooperated to win countless dangerous battles and how many times they escaped from hellish situations. Sandy described them as Schwarzenegger's version of the Sol de Loi, overcoming all obstacles to build Saint Nazir's current state. But after meeting her, why did the two of them seem to be in such a miserable state, either injured here or there? Gu Mingming smiled and did not expose their little tricks. She just nodded and said, "Since Leah is almost fully recovered, why don't we return to Saint Nazir first? I'm a little worried about the kids and we need to plan properly to get what we want from Cole." Elvis and Leah did not reject Gu Mingming. They had always been like this, doing whatever she said and doing whatever she wanted. To go crazy with her, to mess around with her, even if it was hell, they were willing to risk their lives to accompany her. As long as it was her, anything was fine. The three of them used 2 days to return to Saint Nazir. After the accident at the previous memorial, she was schemed by Cole to go to Sodor, then to the Snake King Valley, then back to Sodor. She had finally settled the matters in Sodor and was about to return, but this incident happened just as she was about to reach her doorstep. It was just returning home. Why was it more troublesome than snatching a train ticket during the spring festival? As a result, when Gu Mingming stood in front of her cave, she felt dazed and unreal. "What's wrong?" Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's little face and asked softly. Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "I'm fine, let's go home." Elvis placed her down and held her left hand while Leah held her right hand. The three of them entered the cave side by side. Yes, they used to go home like this. On the day Leah brought them back from the platform of the deity's punishment, both of them expanded the cave entrance with 1 punch each, just enough for their family of 3 to enter and exit side by side. Hada and his brothers were not at home and Gu Mingming was a little disappointed. She looked up at Elvis and asked, "Where are the children? Are you still at Sandy's?" Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's forehead and said, "Don't worry, the scent we gave off along the way is equivalent to telling everyone that we are back. Those bastards will definitely come back later." Gu Mingming nodded and did not reply. As expected, she still couldn't get used to the smell. Chapter 708. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming's waist and said, "You and Sandy can play at home, I will go hunting with Leah." Gu Mingming nodded in agreement. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances and walked out together. After exiting the cave, they transformed into their beast forms at the same time and ran forward. They were the rulers of the territory of Saint Nazir, and their long absence would make the other tribes restless. Now that they were back, they naturally had to declare their sovereignty. After running half a circle around the territory, the two of them stopped under a tree. Leah asked Elvis to wait under the tree while he climbed up the tree to dig out the bird's nest. It used its tail to form a temporary container and place the egg inside. Then it slowly climbed down. Elvis helped to take over the bird eggs and frowned, asking, "So little?" Leah smiled and said, "Ming doesn't allow you to take everything at once, you can only take half at most. These are enough for Ming to eat for at least 1 or 2 days. Tomorrow when I patrol the territory I'll just dig out other nests." Elvis nodded and did not say a word. Saint Nazir's territory was vast and it was not impossible to finish patrolling within a day, but the two of them did not want to leave Gu Mingming's side for too long. On the way back, Leah hunted another 2 ferocious beasts along the way. He and Elvis carried 1 each on their shoulders and continued walking home. Lee's expression was one of bliss. Having a place to belong to was a luxury and he had this luxury now. Just as they were about to enter the tribe's residential area, Elvis stopped in his tracks. He frowned and asked Leah, "Why didn't you level up?" Leah was taken aback and turned to look at Elvis. After a while, he suddenly smiled and said, "You could tell?" Elvis nodded. "When you were fighting with Cole, I did not rush out because I was waiting for you to level up. You had clearly reached the critical point and you just needed to work a little harder to break through. Why did you give up?" Leah lowered his head and his gaze landed on the few bird eggs. He said with some melancholy, "I promised Ming that I would never let her be in a difficult position between us." "Elvis, I don't understand." Leah sighed and said, Ming is already strong enough now, no one can easily hurt her. Besides, don't we still have you, a 5th level orc, at home? So, it doesn't matter if I'm weaker." Was it alright? These words could fool Gu Mingming. But Elvis clearly knew that the stray beast's attack had almost taken Lee's life, causing Gu Mingming to lose control of her emotions and unleash her beast pressure. Many of her enemies and tribesmen had died, and the one to bear the blame was not Gu Mingming, but Leah, who was not strong enough. Not only did everyone blame Leah for not being able to protect his own female, he even caused her to fall into a state of mental breakdown, causing the deaths of so many tribesmen. Elvis could clearly see the sadness in Lee's eyes. As a male, he did not believe that Leah would be willing to be called a burden to Gu Mengmeng because of his weakness. But he clearly had the chance, so why didn't he level up? What are you worried about? Elvis asked. Leah lowered his head and avoided Elvis's gaze. He chuckled. You're thinking too much. I'm not worried about anything. Chapter 709. Leah was taken aback for a moment and blocked Elvis's path. You can't be? You're the leader of the tribe and you're going to complain? Elvis nodded his head with a face full of righteousness. I feel that Xiaomeng seems to be quite happy every time you complain. So I've decided to give it a try. Leah was speechless. He did often complain in front of Gu Mengmeng, especially to Snake. But he knew that he said those things just to make Gu Mengmeng feel more at ease, so he was just fooling around. Don't let Mengmeng know about this. Elvis raised his brows. Why? Leah pursed his lips and sighed. All right, I'll tell the truth. Elvis did not say anything. He just looked at Leah quietly. Lee's shoulders drooped helplessly. I'm afraid that after I level up, I won't be able to resist the urge to fight with you. The absolute suppression of levels can prevent me from forgetting my place and having some unrealistic fantasies. Those fantasies might put Xiaomeng in a difficult position. I have to stop them at the root. Elvis laughed scornfully. He patted Lee's shoulder. Do you think I'll be afraid of you fighting with me? Leah shook his head. You won't be afraid. You've never taken a step back when it comes to Mengmeng. It's precisely because I know you won't back down that I don't dare to move forward. If we have a conflict, Mengmeng will be put in a difficult position. Elvis threw the prey he was carrying on his shoulder onto the ground. He straightened his body. If you continue to stay at the 3rd level, you'll still only have 10 years left. Can you bear to abandon Xiaomeng after 10 years? Lee's heart thumped. He shook his head with much difficulty. Who knows what will happen after 10 years? Maybe I won't even live past 10 years. Elvis said, Xiaomeng lost Snake. She's so upset that she still can't get over it. I don't dare to imagine what will happen to her if she loses you. So, let go of your useless worries. Quickly grow stronger and protect yourself. Don't let Cole take advantage of you again. I don't want to see Xiaomeng lose control because of you. I don't want to see Xiaomeng cry because of you. This is a mission given by the first partner. As a family member, you have no right to refuse. Leah looked straight into Elvis's eyes and after a long while, he suddenly laughed. TSK, what a domineering first partner. The appearance of the Snow Fox clan will become more and more beautiful as they level up. Aren't you afraid that if I really level up to the 5th level, Mengmeng will not even look at you? Elvis sneered and said in a provocative tone, You can try if you have the ability. Leah did not say anything. He just carried his prey and continued walking home, a smile spreading across his face. So, Gu Mengmeng's first partner had to be Elvis and not herself. The decision back then was the right one. Even though the price he had to pay and the process was a little painful, it was still a good outcome. On the other side, after Leah and Elvis left, Gu Mengmeng carried Qixin and listened to Sandy narrate the events that had happened in her absence. Holding Sandy's hand, Gu Mengmeng said, Sandy, thank you for this period of time. These kids must have given you a lot of trouble. Chapter 710. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback for a moment. She and Sandy were not as close as before. Gu Mengmeng could feel this. Firstly, it was because Sandy had stopped Colin from participating in the rescue battle and she felt bad about it. Secondly, it was because Gu Mengmeng's mental age was more than 1,000 years old. She could not continue fooling around with Sandy without a care in the world. But there was one thing. Gu Mengmeng had never treated Sandy as an outsider. She was just not as close to her as before. This distance must have made Sandy very upset, right? But too many things had happened during this period of time. Gu Mengmeng really could not find the time to care about Sandy's feelings. As her bosom friend, this was her fault. Taking the initiative to hold Sandy's hand, Gu Mengmeng smiled warmly. You know, some things happened when I was in the Snake King Valley. It's very hard to control my emotions now. I'm trying my best to adapt to my new state of mind. I'm also trying my best to find my original emotions. But this matter is too difficult for me. Sandy might not know the details of what Gu Mengmeng had experienced in the Snake King Valley, but she had a rough idea. After all, Colin was once one of Gu Mengmeng's guards. In addition, she had always been concerned about Gu Mengmeng more than others. So although the truth that she pieced together was not complete, it was already the most she knew apart from the people involved. Sandy held Gu Mingming's hand with both her hands. Her palms were warm and soft. Her clear eyes shone with heartache. She said timidly, "I want to do something for you, anything. Gu Mingming, tell me, what can I help you with?" Gu Mingming smiled. "You don't have to do anything. Your very existence already makes me feel very warm. After inheriting Snake's memories, I may have become a little colder. But you have to believe me. I don't hate you. I don't blame you. I'm also not trying to distance myself from you. I learned many things from Snake's memories, but I forgot how I should interact with others." Gu Mingming lowered her head and looked at Sandy, who was holding her little hand. Her gaze was filled with gentleness as she said, "I am already very touched that you can hold my hand like this and listen to my helplessness." Sandy was a little emotional. Actually, she had always thought that Gu Mingming no longer wanted to be friends with her selfish self. But she said that her presence could make her feel warm. Sandy felt a lump in her throat and pounced into Gu Mingming's arms. She cried unbridledly and looked rather ugly. "Wah! Gu Mingming, I thought you would never be friends with me again." Sob, sob, sob. "You forgot, it's okay." "Wah! I remember everything." "Wah wah wah. I'll help you regain your memories, I'll help you." Before Sandy could finish her sentence, Leah grabbed the back of her collar and pulled her away. Sandy had been sobbing emotionally, feeling that the wall that had trapped her had finally collapsed and she could once again truly touch Gu Mingming. The joy of regaining her only friend made her feel nothing else in her mind. Until she met Lee's dangerous gaze, all the hairs on her body stood up. Her eyes were clear and clean after being washed, clearly saying, "I'm scared." Burp, Sandy burped. Chapter 711. Gu. Sandy sniffled and looked at Gu Mingming pitifully. Gu Mingming face-bombed, feeling rather helpless. She tugged at Lee's arm and said, "Sandy has always been afraid of you, so stop scaring her. Must you only be happy if I lose all my friends from being scared?" But Leah was unhappy. He hooked Gu Mingming's chin, his long and narrow eyes as deep as the ocean. He slowly inched closer to Gu Mingming's lips but did not kiss her. His ambiguous and sorrowful voice flowed into Gu Mingming's ears, mixing with Lee's unique scent and dyeing Gu Mingming's face red. "While I'm not around, you hugged my female, and took one of her paws, isn't that right? Or are you using this method to hint that Elvis and I did not serve you properly during this period of time, forcing you to seek warmth from a female?" Gu Mingming suddenly realized something incredible. That was, Snake's memory had 1,000 years of killing and 1,000 years of loneliness, but towards something like love, it was almost a blank. Including the snake beasts a few generations before Snake, most of them did not know anything about love. Most of them would mate with female snakes and then lay eggs. They were not interested in females and did not care about eggs at all. The only one in his 8 generations who was tainted with love was his father Weirs, but he was also a case of extreme paranoia that did not end well. As a result, Gu Mingming's reaction towards Lee's teasing was even greater than before. That feeling of her heart almost jumping out of her chest shocked and stunned her, as if she had opened the door to a whole new world. Looking at Leah, she felt as if he had a source of light. Gu Mingming, who had 2 partners, suddenly experienced the throbbing of an iron tree blossoming and an old virgin welcoming the warmth of spring for mating. Gu Mingming's teeth started chattering as she bit her lower lip. Leah was even more shocked than Gu Mingming. He had thought that Gu Mingming would generously reward him with the word, "scram," and then he would be ready to let go and prepare food for her. But the way she was looking at him with a red face, even though she did not say anything, she had teased him till he could not control himself. Cough cough. Sandy cleared her throat, sniffling as she stealthily carried Xianxia away from Gu Mingming's arms. Then, like a staff member who had accidentally walked into the camera, she said to Huda and his brothers, You guys better go home with mother-in-law today. Your mother is too tired and needs to rest." Although the 3 children were still young, due to the fact that there was no concept of chastity in the beast world, many families came to perform live when they were in the mood, so the 3 little ones roughly understood what was going to happen next. It was indeed inconvenient for them to be around. Thus, no one said a word and obediently followed Sandy out of the cave. After walking for a short distance, she saw Elvis, who had just brought back his prey. Kanwu stopped in his tracks, raised his head and said, "Hey." Elvis stood in front of Kanwu and looked down at this little brat, asking, "What?" Kanwu rolled her eyes at Elvis and said, "My mother is lonely and cold now. If I were you, I wouldn't have time to care about this meat. Otherwise, when my mother warms up later, you won't have anything to eat." Elvis was taken aback. He sniffed and indeed found the scent of the fox's seductive fragrance. Elvis frowned. Gu Mingming did not like him using the fox's seductive fragrance, but combined with Kanwa's words, thud. Elvis threw the processed prey on the ground and sprinted towards the cave. Aside from the topic, the author's words, boarding the train, please fasten your seatbelt, train number 4927792773, contact the management when boarding the train. Exclusive VIP seats for fans with 800 points. Passengers, please take note, this train does not go to kindergartens. Children who are going to kindergartens are not allowed to board. Beep. Chapter 7:12. Kanwa laughed coldly and picked up the meat on the ground. He looked up at Sandy and said, "Mother-in-law, our food for today is settled." Sandy poked Kanwa's little head and said, "Scheming against your father like this?" But Kanwa did not take it to heart and said, "I clearly helped him." Sandy did not say much and just let the three children carry the prey that Elvis brought back and walked back to their own cave. From that day onwards, for 2 consecutive days, Saint Nazir seemed to have entered the mating season. Not a single female could be seen on the streets, and even the males who went out to hunt could not wait to rush home after finishing their hunts. Primitive and dispirited sounds filled the air above Saint Nazir, and the only one who held their ground was Sandy's family. No matter how Bode and Colin pestered her, Sandy still bit her lower lip and resisted her own desires even if her entire body was on fire. She said, "Gu Mingming handed the children to me, I have to take care of them. I promised. I will not lead them astray." The males in Sandy's family sat in a row at the entrance of the cave and scratched the wall. They must bring up this to Leah next time. Can you block the entrance of the cave when you are mating and not let the fox's seductive fragrance leak out? Or you should just look after your own children and not care about the lives of others just because you feel good. On the 3rd day, the thick fox seductive fragrance finally dissipated, and Gu Mingming, who was overly fatigued, and Leah, who fainted from the poison, finally woke up. Elvis's beast skin was casually draped over his body, looking loose and lazy. The outline of his muscles was faintly discernible and tempting one's imagination. His blue eyes were filled with fatigue, and when they landed on Gu Mingming's delicate face, they turned into a deep gentleness like the ocean. The corners of his lips curled into a doting smile. It was not hard to tell that this was a sign of physical and mental happiness. In the past, he did not think that there was anything good about Saint Nazir. He had only established a tribe together with Leah to kill time. This time, the situation was very tense and he did not have the time to care about homesickness. But after returning, he suddenly felt a sense of security that he had never felt before. There was no other reason but because this place was filled with memories of Gu Mingming. So this was the meaning of home. It could become a place to return to because there was a past that you could not bear to part with here. Gu Mingming laid on Elvis's chest like a lazy cat, allowing his large hand to caress her head. Elvis's fingers were in her soft hair, gently caressing her scalp. There was no lust, but it was full of love. Because he was poisoned, Lee's face was a little pale, but he could not hide the smile in his eyes. He turned back to look at Gu Mingming from time to time, before continuing to cook for her in satisfaction. Thinking of that pleasure, Leah could feel his heart beating faster and faster. Well, the way she looked at him was beautiful. She was still worried that he was no longer the daddy Leah, who could make her blush. Now it seemed that he had been thinking too much. When it was time to eat, Oriton and Ian appeared on time. Leah frowned and glared at Oriton. "You didn't even bring any prey. Are you trying to share or freeload?" Oriton pointed to the direction behind him. Leah tilted his head and saw 2 large piles of meat that had already been processed. And the ingredients he used to cook just now were taken from there. Chapter 7:13. 2 days' worth of prey are all piled there. But you guys were busy mating and didn't have time to cook for me? Oriton sighed and looked at Gu Mingming with a deep gaze. Although his face was expressionless, Gu Mingming could feel a deep resentment. Was he blaming her for delaying his meal? A foodie's resentment was really... Leah shifted his body and blocked Oriton's line of sight on Gu Mingming. He lifted his chin and said, "If you look again, I will gouge your eyes out." Oriton was still expressionless. He looked at Leah for a while and snorted in disdain. "You can't beat me." Leah laughed instead of getting angry. He said with a sinister tone, "Have you forgotten? Who is the one who cooks in our house?" With a thump, the disdain in Oriton's eyes cracked at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then it turned into a look of admitting defeat and trying to please him. He said, "You win, I won't look." Leah raised his head and snorted arrogantly. He then turned back to continue cooking. Ian shook his head and said, What happened to your cold, cool and arrogant persona? Collapsing over a mouthful of food. Oriton, aren't you afraid of becoming a laughing stock if word of this gets out? Oriton's eyes were fixed on the pot of meat stew beside Lee's hand. He did not react much to Ian's words. Other than craving, no other emotions could be seen on his face. He replied nonchalantly, if anyone dares to laugh at me, just bite them to death. TSK so violent. Ian's face was full of disdain. He moved closer to Gu Mengmeng and stayed further away from Oriton. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. She felt that this was a rare moment of contentment and did not want to spoil it. It was just that outsiders thought that Oriton came to Gu Mengmeng's house every day because he was interested in her. But in fact he only cared about her family's food. Who would believe that? The dignified messenger of the beast deity was breathtakingly beautiful. But in Oriton's eyes she was not even comparable to a bowl of meat stew. But it was also because Oriton did not have that kind of thoughts towards Gu Mengmeng that Leah and Elvis allowed him to show his presence in front of Gu Mengmeng every day without using any extreme methods to chase him away. Ian placed his hands behind his back and leaned back slightly. He looked up at the sky with a sense of contentment and laziness. A gentle breeze blew through his hair, and the two feathers above his ears trembled slightly, revealing a kind of exquisiteness, as if he was a fairy under the sun. But his face was always sickly, making people want to ask him with concern, "Dear, did you take your medicine today?" "Gu Mengmeng," Ian said. "Huh." Gu Mengmeng responded with a single syllable. Ian glanced sideways and looked into Gu Mengmeng's eyes. "That Cole has been loitering around the outskirts of Saint Nazaire. Do we need to deal with him?" Gu Mengmeng frowned, the warmth in her eyes shattered. "He's alone?" Ian nodded and said, "Yes, only one person and he's very arrogant." Gu Mengmeng raised her brow. Ian said, "With his craftiness, it is not difficult for him to hide. However, he has no intention of hiding at all. He is just moving around the outskirts of Saint Nazaire's territory unscrupulously. He is very comfortable." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis and asked, "Whose territory is connected to Saint Nazaire? Is no one doing anything about it?" Chapter 7:14. Gu Mengmeng played with Elvis's tail and looked at Leah. "Leah, what do you think?" Leah was stirring the meat in the pot while controlling the amount of salt. Hearing Gu Mengmeng's words, he turned around and smiled. "Acting so brazenly, I'm afraid he is certain that you will request to meet him. Thinking about it, it can only be because of Xianxia." Xianxia, Gu Mengmeng's heart skipped a beat. Xianxia had been unconscious for a long time. Although his breathing was steady as if he was just sleeping, he had become thinner and thinner recently. Could it be related to Cole? Elvis gently smoothed Gu Mengmeng's brows. "If you want to meet him, then meet him. If you don't, I will chase him away." He could not kill him for now. He held on to Xianhuan's antidote. Although he did not care about Xianhuan's life, he cared about Gu Mengmeng's feelings. It was probably because he was afraid of harming him. But not killing him did not mean he could not beat him. Beating him half to death to vent his anger was also good. At this thought, Elvis's blue eyes deepened, emitting a chilly aura. Gu Mengmeng sighed. "Let's meet him after the meal." It was not the answer Elvis wanted, but, as long as she was happy. Oriton finished half the pot of meat. Gu Mengmeng had a small stomach and was full in a few mouthfuls. Elvis and Leah each had a big bowl, accompanying Gu Mengmeng to eat. Leah played a cheap trick. He said he was weak from being poisoned and could not even lift his arms after cooking for an entire day. Hence, he laid on Gu Mengmeng's knees and insisted that she feed him. Feeding him was not a difficult task. The key was that Gu Mengmeng was leaning in Elvis's arms and Leah was lying on her knees. This position was especially tempting. Of course, it could also be that Gu Mengmeng was feeling guilty and blushing uncontrollably. She wanted to reject him, but Leah lowered his eyes as if he had been abandoned. He said resentfully, "It must be because I did not serve you well, so you punished me by not allowing me to eat, right? I know I should not have been unable to control my desires and secretly tasted the nectar, causing me to faint from the poison before I could satisfy you. I won't dare to do it again. Can't you forgive me this time? In the end it's all because you're too alluring." Gu Mengmeng scooped a spoonful of meat and stuffed it into Lee's mouth. She could not let this fellow speak anymore. Gu Mengmeng's face was about to turn into a steam locomotive. As a result, when Ian brought Cole in, the scene that he saw was Elvis sitting on the throne like a powerful emperor, with a bewitching beauty in his arms. The beauty was teasing a coquettish fox. Their bodies exuded the scent of love that had yet to fade, and Gu Mengmeng's body had so many faint bruises that had yet to disappear, which made the scene look especially dispirited and evil, but it made Cole's heart flutter. Compared to Elvis who ruled over the world, he wanted to be Leah who was trained by Gu Mingming more. Chuckling, his gaze landed on Gu Mingming's face, not concealing his possessiveness at all. Placing his right hand on his left chest, he knelt down on one knee and gave Gu Mingming an elegant European knight's bow. "Dear mistress, what can I do for you?" Chapter 7:15. Don't call me your relative, I don't have such a vile creature like you. Tell me, what are you trying to achieve by loitering outside St. Nazaire? Gu Mingming's face was cold and her gaze was calm. She did not purposely emit any aura, but Snake's thousand-year arrogance had already seeped into Gu Mingming's blood. That insufferably arrogant aura of a natural ruler exuded from within. Even though it was small, it could not be ignored. Cole's gaze was ignited by that little face. No matter how many times he looked, he just wanted to possess her even more. She smelled so good. He could almost imagine how wonderful it would be if she were to enjoy herself on his body. Suddenly, a chilly murderous aura swept over. Although it was only for a moment, it successfully burst the dirty bubble in Cole's mind. Cole looked in the direction of the murderous aura and met Elvis's deep blue eyes. He smiled provocatively with slight disdain. Cole was still kneeling on the ground. He looked up at Gu Mingming and smiled. "I am worried that little Master Xianxuan's body cannot withstand the exhaustion and cannot last until you gather the 5 treasures to exchange for the antidote. I was afraid that you would not be able to find me when you needed me, so I came to you myself." The spoon in Gu Mingming's hand paused for a moment, while Leah took the initiative to stretch his neck and put the spoon in his mouth, finishing the meat with loud noises. The royal consort leaned on Gu Mingming's knees like a drunkard and glanced sideways at Cole, saying, "Yeah, our little brat has indeed lost a lot of weight recently. Do you have any ideas? What are the conditions? Why don't you tell me honestly and not waste the air in our house?" Cole ignored Leah as if he only acknowledged Gu Mingming's promises. For her son, Gu Mingming had to speak to him no matter how unwilling she was. "Tell me, what is the solution? What conditions?" Cole stood up with his back straight like a European noble prince. He did not give off the aura of a stray beast at all. He was still as elegant as ever. His smile was like the spring breeze. But Gu Mingming would no longer be bewitched by his smile. She believed that he was a good person. "I can wake little Master Xianxia up on the condition that he must stay by my side until you gather the 5 treasures and hand them over to me. Then I will return him to you." Cole said. "You want me to hand my son over to a despicable stray beast to raise?" Gu Mingming frowned, looking displeased. But Cole did not seem to mind at all. He only said, "Let the stray beasts rear him or let him starve to death. You can take your time to consider, I am not in a hurry." Gu Mingming clenched her fists tightly as 10,000 alpacas galloped around in her heart. She couldn't understand what Cole was up to this time. What good could come of handing Xianxia over to him? Wouldn't he turn her Xianxia into a pervert? But if she didn't give it to him, she didn't even know where the 5 treasures were. Xianxuan's condition obviously wouldn't last until she gathered all the items to exchange for the antidote. Gu Mingming was in a dilemma, but Cole was not in a hurry. He just stared at Gu Mingming with a faint smile. "Being able to make you worry about me is also a matter of honor." Gu Mingming heaved a deep sigh and turned to look at Oriton. "Go to Sandy's place and bring Xianxia over." Oriton didn't reply. He just walked away quietly and went to Sandy's house to fetch Xianxia. Chapter 7:16. Gu Mingming laughed coldly and said, "Ha, Lord Cole is really skilled and bold. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you and snatch your son back after Xianxia wakes up?" Cole looked as if he was listening to Gu Mingming's words as if they were words of love. He replied gently and lovingly, "The antidote I gave little Master Cole is only temporary. He has to be fed again after a certain period of time. If I cut off the antidote in the middle, then the suppressed poison in his body will spread at a much faster rate. By then, even if the beast deity comes personally, he will not be able to save the situation. For little Master Cole, my beloved master will not bear for me to die, right?" Gu Mingming was so angry that her teeth were itching, but she could not do anything to Cole. Gritting her teeth, Gu Mingming said, "Yes, I really can't bear to part with you, Lord Cole." A strange gentleness bloomed on Cole's face. He smiled coquettishly and said, "To be able to hear my beloved master say that Cole can die without regrets." Gu Mingming closed her eyes, not wanting to see Cole for another second. Leah used his large tail to gently stroke Gu Mingming's shoulder. Then he inched his handsome face closer to Gu Mingming and kissed her eyes. Then he smiled and said, "Wash your eyes." With that, he gently pulled Gu Mingming's little hand into his own arms from Elvis's arms. He placed her little hand on his chest and then used his finger to pull open the half-opened hide on Elvis. Holding Gu Mingming's little face that was flushed after being stunned for half a second, he gently breathed into her left ear and asked, "How is it? Did you wash it clean enough?" Gu Mingming felt that her nose was about to bleed. She grabbed the hide and covered Elvis up again. Her little hands trembled as she said, "Don't wash your dirty linen in public, don't wash your dirty linen in public." Elvis watched as she threw herself from Lee's arms and covered him with his clothes. He could not help but find it funny and also wanted to tease her. With one hand around her waist and the other holding her chin, he squinted his blue eyes and said in a deep and husky voice, "Last night, you didn't say that." Elvis's expression changed as he looked at her. "What did you say?" The fox's seductive fragrance would cause a person to secrete a lot of adrenaline, numbing a part of the brain and increasing the desire of the other part. However, this was different from drinking. There was no memory loss. She clearly remembered the 2 days of entanglement. With Elvis mentioning it in front of everyone, Gu Mingming could no longer maintain her cold and aloof image. She crawled onto Elvis's chest and covered his mouth with both hands. "Don't speak." Elvis's eyes darkened and he looked at Gu Mingming with an indescribable gaze. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment before she realized where her knee was. She bounced away and snuggled back into Lee's arms. Her face was like a ripe tomato as she buried it into Lee's shoulder. She felt like she was too ashamed to face anyone. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances and their hearts loosened a little. Luckily, they had found a way to stir up Gu Mingming's emotions. She seemed to be more sensitive than before when it came to matters of the heart. And all this, in Cole's eyes, ignited an even stronger jealousy. When Oriton brought Xianxia over, Sandy, Bode, Colin and the 3 little ones also followed. Chapter 717. Gu Mingming took Xianxia from Sandy's arms and hugged him for a long time before kissing his little head. Her gaze dimmed as she said, "I don't care who he is as long as he can keep my son alive." Sandy didn't say anything else and just tugged at Gu Mingming's hand and stroked Xuanhuan's head. This child had become very skinny recently. If he still didn't eat, he might really not survive. Gu Mingming carried the child and personally handed him over to Cole. Her height only reached Cole's chest and she had to look up to speak to him. "If anything happens to my son, I will definitely make you regret being born into this world." Cole carried Xianxia in his arms with practiced ease. He tilted his head and chuckled. His eyes were filled with indulgence as he promised in a coaxing tone, "Don't worry, I will treat him like my own son and love him dearly." Gu Mingming knew that Cole was taking advantage of her in a roundabout way, but she had no choice. She could only laugh coldly. "Your own son? Ha, Elvis would never poison his own son." Cole leaned over and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "That's because you didn't want to leave him. Otherwise, in order to keep you here, he would be even more ruthless than me." Gu Mingming placed her hand on Cole's shoulder and exerted a little force. A cracking sound could be heard. It was the sound of bones breaking. Gu Mingming looked up with a radiant smile. "Don't compare yourself to my partners. I won't be happy if I hear it." Cole's forehead was filled with beads of sweat, but the smile on his face deepened. "I will remember this. I am a special existence that is different from the other partners to master. I will not compare myself to your other partners anymore." Gu Mingming didn't want to waste any more time with Cole. She turned around and returned to Elvis's arms. Closing her eyes, she said, "Oriton, send the guest off." Oriton stood expressionlessly in front of Cole. He didn't say a word and just stared coldly at Cole. Actually, there was still a difference in levels. But when facing stray beasts, even if there was a huge difference in levels, there would only be anger and fighting spirit. There would never be any cowardice or fear. Cole had no intention of causing trouble. He just lowered his head at Gu Mingming before carrying Xianxia away. He had encircled a piece of land outside of Saint Nazir's territory, which was equivalent to taking over someone else's territory. This was actually a very serious matter, but the other party knew that they could not afford to offend Cole, so they could only swallow this fly and allow themselves to feel disgusted, deceiving themselves and pretending not to know about this matter. Cole dug a cave that was square in shape. It looked like the layout of the stone houses in Sodor. Although it was simple, it was still exquisite. Cole placed a pill into Xianxuan's mouth and placed him on his knees. He gently stroked his back and muttered to himself, "You have to live well. That way, if she wants to see you, she will have no choice but to come and find me. Ha, if you can really connect me with her, I will teach you how to become a king who looks down on the world. How about it?" In the future, the world that she and I share will also be inherited by you. You will be the eldest and youngest son, and I will also give you the theocracy. How about that, my son? Chapter 7:18. After Cole left, Gu Mingming was a little listless. Sandy gave Bode a look and Bode said he wanted to bring the three little ones out to practice hunting. Kanwu and his brothers had been heavily protected by Sandy ever since they parted ways with Burke and did not have the chance to go out to play. Now that they were granted special treatment, they were naturally happy. They circled around Gu Mingming and wagged their tails, looking at her expectantly. "Mummy, can we go?" Gu Mingming knew that her sons clearly wanted to go, but even so, they still knew to ask for her opinion before heading out. They were probably afraid that she would be worried. Her son's thoughtfulness warmed Gu Mingming's heart. She rubbed their little heads. "I'll let Uncle Oriton go with you, all right?" Males had a natural instinct to worship the strong. Just like how Oriton worshipped Elvis, the three little ones also worshipped Oriton's legends. Hearing that their idols could go with them, they were naturally overjoyed. Gu Mingming looked at Oriton. "Since you have to hunt, help me take care of my sons." Oriton stayed silent for a moment. "If I bring them along, I can't guarantee the quality of the food." Gu Mingming's mouth twitched. Her sons were being despised, right? "Uncle Oriton, don't worry. We promise not to cause trouble. We will just obediently follow by your side and learn. We can protect ourselves while you hunt." The one who spoke was Kanwu. This made Gu Mingming very surprised. After all, this bun always had the demeanor of a gang's young master, like, "Hey, I'm giving face to my mother," when he spoke to Elvis. Why did he look so adorable when he spoke to Oriton? "Little bun, I didn't expect you to have two faces." Oriton looked at Kanwu's eyes in confusion. Then he looked at Elvis's eyes in realization. Being gazed at by a pair of eyes that were so similar to his idols made one's vanity feel satisfied. "All right." His face was expressionless, but he was obviously in a good mood. Oriton turned around and left. The three little ones followed behind him like tails. Sandy instructed Bode to take good care of the children and not let anything happen to them. Bode was willing to be ordered around by his female. However, if one of the three little ones was their child, that would be even better. But since Sandy was especially worried about the three wolf pups, he would definitely protect them with his life. After the children left, Gu Mingming was like a deflated balloon as she leaned into Elvis's arms. Sandy sat in front of her and held her little hand. He frowned and his eyes were filled with heartache. That Cole is obviously up to no good. Now that he has Xianxia in his hands, all the more you cannot touch him. Do you have any countermeasures? Gu Mingming shook her head. "I thought about it before. The kiss of the ocean can cleanse and contain everything. Perhaps it can be used to neutralize the poison in Xuanhuan's body, but Xianxia has yet to transform. Given his abilities, he cannot withstand the immense power of the kiss of the ocean. If I forcefully inject it, I am afraid that Xianxia will explode, so the only way is to give all 5 items to Cole in exchange for the antidote." Chapter 7:19. Do you have any clues? Where are the things he wants? Sandy asked. Gu Mingming shook her head and sighed. "If I had any clues, I wouldn't have returned to St. Nazaire and would have gone to look for them directly. The main thing is, I don't know where to look." Sandy thought for a while and continued, "Why don't I get someone to send them to you?" Gu Mingming looked at Sandy with a face full of confusion. Sandy said, "To find 1 or 2 specific things in such a huge beast world is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Even if everyone in St. Nazaire helps you search, the chances of success are very low. Why don't you just spread the news that whoever can help you find these few things, you will provide him with a year's worth of food. Your family's food is so delicious, everyone will definitely be willing to help you search." Gu Mingming chuckled and thought to herself, "A year's worth of food? This kind of reward can probably only mobilize you and Oriton." But spreading the news was still feasible. With a great reward there would definitely be brave men. This logic should be unchanging since ancient times. But what did she have that could attract everyone? Gu Mingming fell into deep thought, not knowing what to do. Leah waved his tail and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He squeezed himself between Gu Mingming and Sandy and sat down. Then he said, "You can use your status as the messenger of the beast deity to promise that you will grant a wish to the person who presents the 5 treasures." Elvis chuckled and said, "Are you opening the back door to welcome a new family member?" Leah stretched out a finger and waved it lightly, saying, "Although most people will ask Gu Mingming for mating, but don't forget, in order to mate you must first challenge her partner. Tiske, guess if there is a single 3rd-level beast that can defeat you?" Elvis laughed coldly and said, What if the one presenting the treasures is an extremely handsome man? What if Xiaoming really likes him? Leah waved his large tail and said seductively and affectionately, "In terms of beauty, there are not many who can beat me. If one really appears, in order to protect the most handsome position in Gu Mingming's eyes, I don't mind being a ruthless person." Cough, Gu Mingming choked and coughed twice. Elvis patted her back gently, only to see Gu Mingming, who was coughing to the point of tears, looking at Leah with a look of exasperation, saying, "This is not the way to use destroying a flower." Leah shrugged and said nonchalantly, "Anyway, with the two of us guarding, I want to see who can enter this door." Gu Mingming chuckled. "So the two of you want me to cheat a marriage? What was the difference between that and a badger game? It's wrong to play with other people's feelings." Leah smacked his lips. "How can it be a sham marriage? You gave them a chance to woo you. If your partner can't beat you, it's because he's too weak. How can you be blamed?" Chapter 720. The next morning, all the members of the Eagle Owl tribe from St. Nazaire set off. Birds had their own way of communicating, so they could spread the news faster and had a wider range. The only one who knew the way in went to the Snake King Valley to pass on Gu Mingming's words and order the snake beast to spread the news of Gu Mingming's treasure hunt. At the same time, the messenger of the beast deity, Gu Mingming, obtained Snake's tier of the beast deity and was also the saintess of the Snake King Valley, was also announced to the world. Gu Mingming's actions were a clear indication of her attitude. The Snake King Valley was no longer a forbidden place to live in seclusion, but a place under the protection of her, the messenger of the beast deity. Anyone who dared to lay their hands on the Snake King Valley would have to first get past Wabi, who was guarding the valley, and then ask her, the messenger of the beast deity, for permission. As a result, the Snake King Valley, which had already been rumored to be miraculous, once again became a hot topic. As such, within 10 days the news of the bird tribe cooperating with the snake tribe for Gu Mingming's treasure hunt had spread throughout the entire beast world. Everyone had desires. Orcs were the same. Gu Mingming felt more at ease when the bustling search for treasures started outside. She went to see Qixuan, who had indeed woken up. Cole, this pervert, treated Qixuan surprisingly well. Not only did he provide for him to eat and drink, he even brought him to hunt and taught him skills. He did not spoil or mistreat him. If not for the fact that they were of different species, people would really suspect if Cole was Qixuan's biological father. But there was one thing. If Gu Mingming came to see Qixuan alone, Cole would welcome her with all kinds of warmth and consideration. But if someone else accompanied him, regardless of gender, Cole would hide Qixuan away, ensuring that Gu Mingming would not be able to find him. And for the next few days, Gu Mingming would not be able to see Qixuan again. After repeating this a few times, Gu Mingming finally understood Cole's intentions. "You're here." Cole smiled gently, as if he was a wife waiting for him to return from grocery shopping. Even though Cole had been behaving like a stray beast ever since he raised Qixuan, Gu Mingming became even more guarded against him. No matter how he expressed his goodwill, Gu Mingming would never say a word to him. Bypassing Cole, Gu Mingming directly entered the cave that Cole had dug out. Qixuan was sprawled on the side of the bed for an afternoon nap. Sensing someone approaching, he immediately raised his head and pricked up his ears to look at the entrance of the cave warily. Recognizing that it was his mother, he relaxed and whimpered a few times. Only when Gu Mingming sat by the bed did he crawl into her arms. Qixuan had yet to evolve and was the only one among the four brothers who was still in beast form. After Cole's training, his body had become much stronger. His fur was glowing and his eyes were bright and full of expression. One look and one could tell that he was living a good life. But even so, Gu Mingming still felt that she owed her son. She hugged Qixuan and kissed him. "Your brothers miss you very much. Once I gather the ransom money, I will bring you back to reunite with your family." Howl, her son was her biological son, but Gu Mingming still did not understand what he was saying. Cole brought in a plate of fruits from outside and placed it by Gu Mingming's hand. He did not mind Gu Mingming's cold treatment at all. "The dry season is coming. Have you found a water reserve?" Gu Mingming completely treated Cole like air. She did not eat the food he gave her and did not reply to his questions. She only focused on hugging and kissing her son. Aside from the topic, let me report our monthly votes in February were ranked 39th in the Xiaoxiang overall rankings. This is a very good result. Thank you, my babies, for your support. March had just started and my babies had already voted for more than 10 monthly votes. They were indeed true fans. Thank you everyone. Chapter 721. There is an underground well in Sauder. Why don't you stay there for a while? Even though he didn't get a response, Cole continued to talk to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming hugged Qixin in her arms and kissed his little face. Good son, continue sleeping. Mummy will leave first. I will come back to see you tomorrow. With that, Gu Mingming placed Qixin back on the bed and patted his back gently. She stood up and left without so much as a glance at Cole. Cole's lips curled up as he stared at Gu Mingming's back. He placed his large hand on Qixuan's back. Look, your mother is still throwing a tantrum with us. Looks like I have to work harder to coax her. Back in the cave, Elvis had already boiled water for Gu Mingming to bathe. Just like how Cole did not allow others to visit Qixin in the cave, Elvis and Leah also could not tolerate Cole's scent on Gu Mingming. So every time they visited Qixin in Cole's cave, they had to bathe immediately after returning. Otherwise, their faces would turn as black as stormy clouds. After a comfortable bath, Elvis placed Gu Mingming on the bed. Just as he was about to doze off, a familiar feeling suddenly dispelled his drowsiness. Gu Mingming sat up after putting on her snake skin. She quickly walked out of the cave and saw a familiar serpent that looked like sh*t slithering towards her. Hiss hiss hiss, the large head of a train spat out its forked tongue and a sharp attack headed straight for Gu Mingming's face. Without another word, Gu Mingming raised her hand and slapped Wabi to the ground. She raised her brows. How many times do I have to tell you? I hate snakes. I hate sh*t. I hate snakes that look like sh*t. Can't you just appear in front of me like a human? Why must you make me feel like I have scratched sh*t every time I hit you? It's so disgusting, isn't it? Cole did a somersault and transformed back into his human form. His body had shrunk quite a bit and there was a bruise on his chin. It was obvious that Gu Mingming had hit him too hard just now and disfigured him. Tisk. Wabi looked at Gu Mingming with disdain. Do you think I want to? The outside of the Snake King Valley is too dry, so if I don't use my beast form, I won't be able to walk fast. If I use my 2 legs to walk over, I would become a dried snake. Gu Mingming sat backwards and Elvis caught her firmly. His large black tail wrapped around her slender waist and his chest was behind her back. He picked up a piece of leather to wipe Gu Mingming's little hand that had just patted the shit, not interrupting. The weather outside is not suitable for you and you still came out? Gu Mingming asked. Wabi said awkwardly, the days after this will get drier and drier. Then it will be winter and I will hibernate. If I don't fight you now, I'll have to wait until next year. The corners of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched as she smiled. So you came all the way here just to look for a beating? Wabi blushed. Gu Mingming was right. Stubbornly refusing to admit it, he said, of course not. Gu Mingming looked at Wabi with a, please start your performance, expression. Then other than an itch for a beating, what else do you want from me? Wabi stretched out 2 fingers. 2 things. Gu Mingming nodded and made a pleased gesture. Yes, speak. Chapter 722. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat. Those fruits, was it the tree that Snake had kicked over? He had asked the snake beast to pluck all the fruits from the tree for her. Unfortunately, she could not finish them, so he had asked someone to bury them all. He had just wanted to give it a try and did not expect it to really germinate. Wabi felt rather awkward and did not look at Gu Mingming. He pretended to be nonchalant. He said, you like trees, especially that precious one. Now that it has sprouted, I am here to tell you. After all, if you are happy, he will also be happy. Gu Mingming smiled. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Wabi. Wabi lifted his head. Of course you should thank me for my painstaking efforts to deliver the message. But, you did not just say it, right? Gu Mingming was taken aback. Oh? You have already thought of thanking me before coming to me? Tell me, what do I have here that Lord Wabi covets? Wabi's expression was rather stiff. He said carefully, if the beast deity is your father, can you ask him, how is that person doing now? All right. The people of the beast world believed in returning to the embrace of the beast deity after death. She said her father was the beast deity, so Gu Mingming smiled. All right, I will try. With that, Gu Mingming stood up and turned to enter the cave. Wabi did not expect Gu Mingming to agree so readily. He was stunned for a moment, thinking that Gu Mingming was going to open the altar to communicate with the beast deity. But why did she turn and enter the cave? Where are you going? Gu Mingming did not even turn back. Sleep. Wabi did not understand. He thought for a moment. Perhaps opening the altar to worship the heavens was a physical activity and she needed to replenish her sleep? He had never opened an altar before, so he did not know. Hence, the awe-inspiring Lord Wabiai squatted in the shade outside Gu Mingming's cave like an abandoned dog. He held a tree branch and drew circles on the ground, waiting for her to wake up. Rubbing his chin, Wabiai smiled foolishly. So painful. It was about the same strength as him. On the other side, Gu Mingming called Leah and Elvis over. "I am going to find my father to talk about life. I don't know how long I will be sleeping. If you two are busy, you don't have to guard me." With a deity like Wabiai squatting at the door, any ordinary person would be shivering just by passing by. Elvis placed Gu Mingming on the prepared beast skin and covered her with a blanket. He said gently and dotingly, "Don't worry about these, sleep well. Leah and I will take care of the clan matters." Gu Mingming nodded, then slowly closed her eyes. Other than bidding farewell to Snake, Gu Mingming had never taken the initiative to look for the beast deity. Firstly, she was angry that the beast deity refused to help her save her son, and secondly, she blamed Snakel's death on him. But as time passed, Gu Mingming gradually got over it. The beast deity was such a high and mighty cheat system. It was never wrong to build a good relationship with it. Hence, Gu Mingming slowly entered her dreams with the mentality of gifting a gift to her leader. The white in the fog made it hard for one to know where they were. Gu Mingming smiled and said, "My biological father is indeed my biological father. You let me in knowing that I wanted to find you." Chapter 723. Gu Mingming felt that since this mighty beast deity liked this kind of father-daughter cosplay character setting, then so be it. She could just treat it as though she lacked a father's hobby since young. "Since father knows that I am coming back, he must know why I am back?" Gu Mingming tilted her head and smiled. The beast deity maintained a benevolent expression. He rubbed his chin and asked, "Do you want to watch television together?" Gu Mingming raised her eyebrows, looking like a rebellious girl. The beast deity was still smiling and did not get angry. He added lightly, "The domineering senior who transmigrated through time and space, starring Snake." Gu Mingming's expression changed instantly, faster than the changing of faces in Sichuan opera. She smiled sweetly and said, "All right." The beast deity and Gu Mingming sat cross-legged on the ground. With a wave of his hand, the white fog in front of them dispersed, revealing a window that looked a little like a home theater. Gu Mingming did not think too much about whether this was high-tech or metaphysics. She just focused on searching for Snake's figure in the image. An ancient castle in Europe. With the accumulation of time, the birth of a child brought hope to the family. But this child was very strange. He did not cry from birth. His parents clearly had blue eyes, but he was born with a pair of emerald green pupils. He was clearly an infant in swaddling clothes, but he had an aura that made people tremble in fear. The grandfather stared at the child for a long time. He nodded and said in relief, "The future prosperity of our family depends on this child." That one sentence established this child's status in the family. The 6-year-old child sat in front of the computer. His short fingers typed rapidly on the keyboard. At 2:59 p.m., he hit the enter key. A listed company thousands of miles away was attacked without any warning. It no longer had the ability to retaliate. The child jumped down from the computer and looked at his shocked father. He was clearly looking up at him, but his aura overpowered his father. His little face was expressionless as he said in a commanding tone, "I have completed the acquisition you wanted. So, change my name to Snake." Without waiting for his father's reply, he had already left with his hands behind his back. Looking at his son's small back and listening to the longest sentence his son had ever said to him, the child's father was stunned for a long time before he slowly replied, "Okay." At the age of 8, Snake had already become the master of the family. He rarely interfered with trivial matters, and no one in the family dared to go against his wishes once he opened his mouth. Because countless facts had proven that he was always right. Whether it was danger or opportunity, his senses were always the sharpest, and his judgment was always the most accurate. Because of him, an old family that had fallen to the point where only its reputation was left had suddenly risen within a few years, and was comparable to its heyday in the past. Therefore the kidnappers had their eyes on this 8-year-old child. A car accident. The driver died on the spot and Snake's whereabouts were unknown. His family anxiously mobilized various forces to search for him, but to no avail. When the police were forced to the brink of digging 3 feet into the ground, Snake, dressed in a neat suit and a pair of clean leather shoes, walked back home in a dignified manner with a steady rhythm. No one knew what happened that day and no one knew where the robbers went. They only heard that the abandoned factory where Snakel was imprisoned was so infested with snakes that even professional snake catchers did not dare to step foot there. Digression. Here, the long-awaited Snake's digression was released. Snake's digression would be released in this manner. All the digression related to Snake would be named as the extremely vulgar, the domineering senior who transmigrated from past life to present life falls in love with me. Those who liked Snake could just read it directly, and those who didn't could skip it when they saw the chapter name. Chapter 724. Every weekend, the elegant prince would fly to a certain city in China on a private plane. At a fixed time, he would go to a fixed amusement park to watch a very childish little theater for children that had nothing to do with elegance. At night, he would go to a local fast food restaurant to have a meal that would definitely be blacklisted. Then he would stand quietly under the street lights and watch the last employee leave the restaurant before taking a plane back to the castle. No one knew what kind of weird hobby he had. Anyway, most geniuses were not normal. When he was 17, he announced that he wanted to study in China. The entire family was in an uproar. A genius who already had a double master's degree from a world-class university was going to study in a random first-year major in a third-rate university in China? Why? Facing the strong opposition from his family, Snake only laughed coldly and said, "It's easy to let a family prosper, but it's even easier to destroy a family." The next day, Snake completed the registration for new students. Next year, there would be a person he had waited for 17 years to enter this university. In these 17 years, he had never tampered with anything in her life, because he could not afford to miss her due to a slight deviation in his track. So, he only looked at her silently and participated in her memory like a passerby. Today he decided to tamper with the first thing in her life. There was a position that he was not willing to give up to anyone else. A club application was slapped on the president's table. The well-built fourth-year senior looked up at the exchange student who was crowned the coolest school hunk because of his foreign appearance. With a smile, he helped him complete the registration procedures without saying a word. Don't ask why. Look at those crazy girls behind him. Did he need any other reason? Did he? No need. Snake's existence caused the previously unknown swimming club in S University to become one of the most popular clubs in the world. But Snake had a principle, which was to only participate in city-level swimming competitions. As long as it was not a competition in S City, he would not participate. No matter who tried to motivate him, he would not give face to anyone. Then there was a legend in S University. The coolest school hunk was good at everything except that he was a mute. From the first day of school he had not spoken to anyone. The class bell, faculty bell and school bell confessed to him, but he just brushed past them without even blinking. Until the second year, 2 months after the new students enrolled, at the edge of the school field, a girl in a school uniform was nervously holding a letter. There was a love sticker on the envelope. This was a common sight. She didn't need to guess to know that it was a love letter. "Senior, I like you." Gu Mingming handed over the love letter with both hands, then lowered her head, not daring to look into his eyes. "Gu." Before the senior could reply, the love letter in Gu Mingming's hands was snatched away. A tall figure stood between him and Gu Mingming, his burly body blocking him completely. Gu Mingming raised her head and stared blankly at the person who snatched her love letter. Her clear eyes were filled with astonishment. His dark green eyes revealed a trace of malice and anger. His lips were clearly curled up, but it made people shudder. His voice was cold and emotionless, but it was filled with an irresistible tone. "Do you think it's appropriate for someone who already has a boyfriend to confess to someone else?" Out of topic. It appeared. Susu was so excited that she couldn't control herself. Chapter 725. Have a boyfriend, who? Gu Mingming was dumbfounded and could not keep up. Snake took a step forward and bent down slightly. He looked into her clear eyes and said, "You?" Gu Mingming instinctively took a step back and shook her head. "Senior, you have not agreed to my confession." "I don't have a boyfriend." Gu Mingming took a small step back and Snake took a big step forward. The distance between the two of them became so close that Gu Mingming could feel Snake's breath rushing towards her. "You do." The two light words were filled with endless ambiguity. Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and wanted to cry. When did this happen? Why didn't I know? She was forced to take a few steps back by Snake. She lost her footing and fell backwards. Snakel quickly grabbed onto her waist and pulled her into his arms, allowing her to slam into his chest. Seeing how her nose was red from the impact and how her eyes were watery from the pain, Snakel felt the satisfaction from teasing her. He rubbed her little head in satisfaction and said, I am now officially informing you that from this second onwards, I am your boyfriend. Do you understand now? Gu Mingming looked at Snake as if she was looking at a lunatic. She wanted to snatch back her confession letter. That, Senior, you might have read too many romance novels, but I don't like you. Return the letter to me, return it to me. Gu Mingming's petite arms and legs did not have any advantage in front of Snake. Looking at how she was jumping around in his arms, Snake frowned and said, The first love letter was not written to me, are you sure? Gu Mingming looked at Snake and Gu Mingming and said, The first love letter was not written to me, are you sure? Gu Mingming suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. She was suddenly terrified. Wasn't he the one who suddenly appeared and spoiled her confession? Why was he so confident while she was like a red-necked apricot who was caught trying to climb the wall? Feeling guilty for no reason, Gu Mingming carefully retreated from Snake's arms. She smiled bitterly. That, Senior, you go ahead with your work. I won't disturb you anymore. Before she finished her sentence, Gu Mingming had already run off. What confession? Forget it. She had a feeling that her life was in danger. Looking at her fleeing back view, Snake was in an inexplicably good mood. He smiled and muttered to himself, Yeah, you've grown up. The last time we met, I was so scared that I fainted. Turning back, Snake faced the guy who Gu Mingming had confessed to and was about to slip away. Come here. That boy seemed to have been frozen in place. He turned his head around stiffly and stood in a proper military posture in front of Snakel. Snakel frowned. The person in front of him was not the swimming club Prince Charming Sr. that Gu Mingming had in mind. That fellow from the swimming club had already been tortured so badly by him that he had to transfer schools. Tiske, where did this eyesore come from? Which society are you from? Snake asked. Basketball club, the boy answered. Snake nodded, thinking that perhaps his interference had caused Gu Mingming's interest to deviate, but it did not matter, he would do whatever she liked. Patting the boy's shoulder, he said, Later, bring a letter of application to block a classroom 9 to find me. Yes. With that, the boy ran off as if he was escaping for his life. Snake turned around and walked towards Block A Classroom 9 as the bell rang. Chapter 726. As the fog started to spread, Gu Mingming smiled helplessly at the beast deity. Yeah, no matter if Snake is a human or a snake, I am still as cowardly as ever in front of him. The beast deity was still smiling benevolently. He tilted his head at Gu Mingming. Are you relieved to know that he is like this now? Gu Mingming nodded. I am relieved to see that he is living well. Even if he ends up falling in love with someone else, I will be satisfied as long as he is happy. The beast deity shook his head. Don't you understand? Even if he goes to that world, Snake is still an orc by nature. Falling in love with someone means that he will never change. There has never been a change of heart. That's true. How could 1,000 years of understanding be changed in just a few decades? Gu Mingming smiled helplessly. But I am so cowardly and Snake is so domineering. According to my character, I will definitely be frightened to death by him. The beast deity nodded in agreement. So this the overbearing senior who transmigrated through the past and present lives falls in love with me, should be a rather long television series. If you are interested, why don't we watch it together next time? Gu Mingming smiled. Are you a retired, lonely old man asking his children to visit him regularly? His reputation is to ask his children to come back for dinner. You are asking your daughter to come back to watch television series with you? And even a youth idol romance film? The beast deity chuckled and did not say a word. Gu Mingming paused. She looked up at the beast deity. What I saw just now, was it all real? You did not use some illusion spell to fool me, right? The beast deity nodded. Deities cannot lie. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly felt the burden on her shoulders lightened. Although they were not in the same time-space, it was great that Snake could be happy. Back then he had said that he was the most powerful beast king. No matter which time-space he was in, he would always be the king of the world. At that time she was still criticizing him for being an egomaniac. Now it seemed that what he said was reasonable. Alright, I will leave now. There is still someone waiting for me at my door. The beast deity tugged at Gu Mingming's arm. Gu Mingming turned back to look at the beast deity, waiting for him to continue. The beast deity thought for a moment and said, You really want to find those things for Cole? Gu Mingming smiled and asked, Why? Are you afraid that he will activate his beast king bloodline after obtaining the treasure and harm the common people? The beast god hesitated, then nodded. Gu Mingming grinned. That's easy. Give me Qishuan's antidote. Or tell me how to cure the poison in my son's body and I won't find any treasures for coal. If you need it, I can even kill him personally. Let's see if you want to eat sashimi or hot pot. I can make sure you're satisfied. The beast deity sighed and said helplessly, as if he was looking at his daughter who was acting shamelessly, "You know, I can't interfere with the matters of the beast world." Gu Mingming chuckled and asked, "If you don't let me find the 5 treasures for coal, does that not count as interference?" The beast deity seemed to have expected this question from Gu Mingming. He did not get angry and just replied calmly, "I'm just afraid that you don't know the effects of those 5 treasures and won't be able to turn a blind eye to it." Chapter 727. Gu Mingming turned to leave, but the beast deity sighed and said in a low voice, "No father can watch his own child perish together with others." After Gu Mingming woke up, she was in a good mood and even felt that the sky had turned bluer. Stretching, she took the cup of water that Elvis handed over and drank a mouthful to moisten her throat. Then she smiled gently and said, "Thank you." Elvis poked Gu Mingming's head with his finger and said, "Saying thank you to me?" Gu Mingming thought about it and agreed. Elvis had done so many things for her, which one of them could be repaid with just a few simple words of thanks. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and kissed him on the cheek, then hung herself in Elvis's arms in an affectionate manner. Elvis enjoyed Gu Mingming's long-awaited intimacy very much. His Xiaoming was getting better day by day. Although she was still different from before, at least when facing him and Leah she was not much different from before. That was enough. As for her attitude towards others, whether she wanted to benefit the world or destroy it, he didn't care as long as she was happy. "How long did I sleep for?" Gu Mingming asked. Elvis replied, 2 days and 1 night. "Where's Wabi? Still squatting at the entrance?" Elvis nodded and said, "Yeah, he hasn't moved at all." "Let's go and take a look." Elvis didn't say anything and just carried Gu Mingming out of the cave. She had a good sleep and her body was well rested. Without any trivial matters to worry about, and knowing that Snake was indeed living a good life, although her situation was weak and awkward, and Snake's domineering way of chasing would only make her run faster and further, but wasn't it a good thing for Snake to create some small trouble like this for him? His life was too plain and boring. No one dared to defy his rule and it became lonely after a long time. It was good to let her create some trouble for him in another space-time. Curling her lips, Gu Mingming suddenly reached out to sneak an attack on Wabi from behind. Wabi's reflexes were very sharp and he dodged in a flash. This kind of pressure was very familiar. It was dangerous but not murderous, so Wabi knew from the start that it was Gu Mingming. But he never does such sneak attacks. How embarrassing. Wabi's face was full of disdain. Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders and said nonchalantly, "He said, he is him and I am me. He asked me to live my life in the way I want. So I like sneak attacks. What do you think? Hit me if you dare." Wabi rolled up his sleeves and stood up. "Let's fight then, who's afraid of who?" Gu Mingming pushed Elvis away and stepped forward. She opened her arms wide and said, "Come on, go ahead and fight. I don't fight back. But if he dies, you have to explain to the beast deity yourself." Actually, Wabi really wanted to fight with him for the first time in a long time. But looking at Gu Mingming's fearless expression, he didn't dare to make a move. No matter how much strength she had in her body was simply too small and looked very fragile. In the past he dared to fight with her because he knew he couldn't beat her. But now she was clearly not fighting back or dodging. Wasn't she being shameless? What if he really broke her? How was he going to explain to Snake? You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.